1-1 in the first quarterfinal matchup of the day. And again, the story is, can Hamster find a win with that Priest and with that Paladin deck? He's gonna throw out the Warrior for game number 3, though.
And Hamster is playing the Cthulhu Warrior. We actually saw a lot of variations of Warrior throughout opening week, and most of the sort of traditional control Warrior decks are now gone. We've seen them largely supplanted by Cthulhu Warrior, and we've also seen the kind of wacky version of the Arcane Giants Warrior that Hobby Out is playing. But the Cthulhu Warrior in particular has a lot of powerful tools for this matchup. Even if it doesn't have, say, Fiery War Axe, the Disciple of Cthulhu can do a lot of work limiting your opponent's early minions.
Yeah, it does still run the packages of cards that are great against the Zoo Warlock. As you mentioned, Fiery War Axe, it runs Double Brawl. It even has a copy of Revenge, which was a card that a lot of Cthulhu Warriors didn't run for a very long time, but now has become quite standard, at least one copy of it. JasonZhou actually off to a pretty good start. Young Priestess is a card that he has decided to include in his deck. It is a one of, but his consistency of one drops is something to note with how he built his Warlock deck.
Yeah, Zoo really leverages the power of the Warlock Hero Power Life Tap. It really wants to just play as efficiently as possible, get that down on the board, empty its hand, and sometimes even empty its hand intentionally and take advantage of, say, that Malchezaar's Imp we see in his hand. But the Young Priestess, though, can be especially powerful because the deck does have a lot of low health minions, and those can be vulnerable to damage-based removal, in particular, things like the Ravaging Ghoul we see in Hamster's hand. If, for instance, that Possessed Villager did not have that buff, Ravaging Ghoul will be really strong this turn, but instead, not nearly as powerful, and Hamster goes with the Disciple of Cthulhu.
Yeah, there's a lot of sweepers like that in the meta currently. You know, Maelstrom Portal from Shaman is another card that allows you to play around at times, but we'll see if JasonZhou can get going here, because Hamster's got a pretty good hand to combat some of these turns that Jason can throw at him. He's got the Ravaging Ghoul, he has the Brawl to sort of reset in that mid game.
And even just that Acolyte of Pain, if Jason doesn't have particularly strong minions, just has a board full of these small things, Acolyte of Pain can help remove minions as well as draw additional cards.
Yeah, but even if it draws just 2 cards, if it gets attacked twice, that can be enough to give Hamster the resources that he needs to win this game.
Yeah, but now the Ravaging Ghoul comes down, takes out the Young Priest. It did not buff the Shadow Beast, so that will die as well. So just the Direwolf Alpha and that Imp remaining. What'll Jason find with the Peddler? Warren Coil is quite nice, could potentially allow him to kill the 3/3 and get a card.
That's true. Also, there is some interesting interactions with Crazed Alchemist and buff cards.
It's true.
Including Direwolf Alpha.
Yeah.
You can give your minions weird interactions with giving them permanent stats if you flip them while they're next to a Direwolf Alpha.
And the Crazed Alchemist here on the, which we may see on the Imp, could be a fancy little trick understanding exactly how those rules do work.
Yeah, because what it would do is it would flip the amount of health to the Malchezaar's Imp to the original, so it would buff the attack to 2, and then the Direwolf Alpha buff takes place, which means you get the 3 attack from the Malchezaar's Imp, which allows him to utilize his curve a little bit more and use Crazed Alchemist in a matchup where it may not necessarily see as much. So I really like the creative use.
So fancy.
So fancy.
So very fancy. And now that also makes the Acolyte of Pain in Hamster's hand. It's facing down a number of 3 attack minions, not nearly as attractive. Shield Slam twice. So Hamster, I think he's looking at this and thinking, okay, I want to stem the bleeding as much as I can. It is a little odd to use 2 copies of Shield Slam there when you do have the Brawls.
2 copies of the
Brawls. So he has the tools to sweep up this board, and using his powerful single target removal already will leave him without the tools to clear off what survives after he does Brawl.
And one thing, maybe with 1 copy of Revenge, it's not as good of a strategy, but a lot of times Warriors like to take that damage early on and then utilize their removal and their health gain, especially in Cthulhu Warrior with Ancient Shield Bearers, to come back in the game later on and to maybe, encourage the Warlock to overextend. So it is a really interesting play from Hamster. Those Brawls are going to, have a tough time getting use as this game goes on, but, he's got a game plan.
There's a Doomguard, so the Soulfire, Power Bombing, and Doomguard offer Jason. Kind of difficult to necessarily use all of them. You don't really want to have those necessarily in your hand at the same time. I think we'll likely see at least one of them used as removal this turn.
Yeah, I think, interesting. One thing that he could have done that turn was use the Soulfire to minimize the risk that his Doomguard gets discarded. But then if he does that, he doesn't really have any plays to go on with it. But he didn't play anything along with the Power Whelming anyway.
So Emperor comes down for Hamster here, not discounting any like powerful combinations like say Brand plus a Shield Bearer or Twin Emperor, but does give Jason pause as to just using his minions to attack the face. He's thinking, okay, what can go wrong if I leave this in play for a turn?
That's one thing that Hamster has shown tendencies towards, is just playing powerful minions that you can wait and get a better effect out of. Really early on in the game, we've seen him just play Sylvanas onto an empty board in a lot of situations.
And the Soulfire allows Jason to keep the Doomguard. This is huge because he's able to use just the 1/1 to take out the Emperor. Attacks in for 9 damage here, so putting Hamster down to just 9 life. We do see Hamster with a pair of Brawls in hand, so this could be big depending on what wins.
But if the Doomguard wins, that's going to be tough because Hamster doesn't have a way to activate the Execute in his hand, so he'd have to develop a threat behind it, not armor up, and take the risk of losing to a 4 damage spell.
Ooh, Doomguard does not win. The Imp does, so second best outcome possible for Jason. He gets at least the 3 attack minion surviving. So he's looking for a little bit more damage. There's a Soulfire.
Oh, he's so close.
He can use the Soulfire right now, and if he draws his other Doomguard,
he's got to go
life
for
tap, or any way to do 2 damage.
Abusive Sergeant would do it as well.
There it is, Doomguard for Jason. And he will take a 2-1 lead over Hamster.
Wow, what a call.